Music news, as I said, we have a lawsuit, and this one is coming from Limp Bizkit suing the music industry, kind of. We also have Maximum the Hormone has released a new video, and it's about damn time, with Converge raising money for hurricane victims. That's pretty dang awesome. We've got a decent music section, so let's do this. Welcome, nerds, to this week's edition of the music news. This is just a section, one section of six, count them, six other sections that we do over on the main channel in a show I like to call Week in Nerddom, where we talk about all of the nerdy things. You can find a link to that show down in the description or at the end of this video. Now let's talk about new music, touring information, and other generally interesting things to do with the music news. You thought I was going to say generally nerdy, didn't you? Jumping into the music section, we have no follow-ups or corrections, so let's get to these new music stuff. And big one coming out swinging, we have a new Maximum the Hormone. I think this is just a new video for an old song. It might be a new version of an old song too, because it's featuring another artist, but I'm really not going to be able to pronounce the name of the song. Actually, the name of the other artist, I apologize. Shimmy, I believe, is how the name of the song is pronounced, and then the other artist that is featured on this is a Tarashi Gakko. I think that's how that goes. But either way, Maximum the Hormone is just amazing. These guys rock so damn hard. They're kind of Japan's answer to System of a Down, only much more frantic and much more varied in their styles that they touch on from here and there. Like, they go into pop areas where System of a Down doesn't really get into the pop stuff as much. Like, you could argue that some of the stuff System does is poppy, but like not to the same degree as Maximum the Hormone. But that's kind of what makes Maximum the Hormone amazing, is the fact that they can get stupid heavy and then the very next instant sounds like the intro to a Studio Ghibli movie. Like, this band is for people with ADHD times 10, and I cannot get enough of them. You should absolutely go check out Shimmy, because it's a great track. Like, it sounds super familiar. I very well could be mistaken, but it sounds very familiar, so I'm pretty sure they released the song previously, but this is a new video at the very least, if not a new version of the older song. Like I said previously, it's great. Go check out Maximum the Hormone. Then Undeath has released a brand new track called More Insane. A new video as well, again linked in the description. These dudes just really know how to do the death metals. No rock bass syndrome here really at all. A little bit on the production side of things, because the production sounds very thin on this, which is kind of endemic in the death metal community. But like, the bass player really does a lot to combat what the producer is not doing properly, because that bass is going crazy. It's all over the place, and I totally love it. Like, when you do death metal properly, this is what it sounds like. If you have not really dipped your toes into this genre before, Death is a fantastic band to start with, and this is a really, really catchy song to do that with. Like, just super... I just very well performed. Like, I just can't say enough about how quality this is. It's not exactly what I was expecting vocally, because previously their vocals have been slightly different, but still, it's death metal, so that's kind of what you get, is growly, growly, growly with great instrumentation. And there you go. That's there's no more praise I can give this, because I'll just be talking for minutes. So let's move on. Go check out Undeath's More Insane. And then let's completely get out of metal for just a moment, in so many ways. We have a new version of a Christina Aguilera classic song. She did a live Spotify set and released Genie in a Bottle as a single from that set. And this Genie in a Bottle version is also featuring MGK on guitar. Thank God he was not trying to do some sort of vocals, because I feel like he would have really messed things up if he had. But Christina's one of the greatest voices of multiple generations. I would say of a generation, but like multiple generations at this point. So that's pretty awesome. And like, this is just a prime example of it, because this is a song that she has said very publicly that she doesn't really like much in her catalog. Originally, she didn't want to do it. She didn't want to put it on the record, but she didn't have a whole lot of say in the early days. So it was kind of given to her, and now she's making it her own. And so that really shines through. The MGK side of this is really hot garbage. Like, that dude, I don't understand the popularity for MGK, because like, he doesn't really his guitar kind of sounds terrible. He barely does anything interesting as far as the runs go for this solo. And like, why not get somebody with like actual guitar skills that would have like set this apart? Like, not that Christina Aguilera's voice doesn't already set this apart, but could have like taken it into the stratosphere, kind of set this apart, if you had gotten somebody who actually knows how to play the guitar and doesn't just know a couple of licks. So there's that. But yeah, also kind of note for this is, I feel like this version that was released, I very well could be mistaken, but I feel like this version that was released is not the actual when they recorded it. So they say it's live. I feel like the performance of this is not what was recorded live. The recording does sound live. It sounds like everyone was in a room together and recorded it, but very much sounded like they were in isolation booths and everyone was just playing at the same time, because that's still technically recording live. And then for the performance, they played that tape and try to get, because sometimes her voice does not, or her mouth does not line up with the sounds that are coming out. A lot of times she's doing a lot of this stuff with the microphone that really looks like it should be affecting the tone of the sounds coming out of her mouth, and it doesn't. There's no volume issues when she's over. I know she's got crazy powerful lungs, but like, there's no visible difference in the way she's performing, yet her microphone is in different spots and there's no audible difference there either. So like, I don't know, it just feels like this is not the recorded version. This is the performance of the recorded version. Still could have been recorded live. Like I said, there are two different ways to do that, and they chose the easier way, I think. Still great. I mean, if you're into pop music, like, this is some of the best pop music you could probably put your ears to. So go check it out. Go check out the whole performance. Maybe not just the song. Go check out the whole performance, because it's good stuff. From there, next is Silosis. They have put out a new track called The Path. This is featuring Debbie Go from the band Harriet. And if you've never listened to Harriet, I feel like this is a pretty decent way to slip it in. So the Silosis track, like the performance that the guys put into this, is kind of middling. It's not really great, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. And then you get to the end where you get that verse from, again, I'm not going to remember her name, Debbie. Woo, Debbie Go. So you get to her verse, and that's kind of what brings it up into definitely a recommend kind of territory, just because I just really dig the vocal performance that she gives in her band as well. If you've never heard Harriet, go check them out. It's pretty good extreme stuff. So and she sets this apart. Silosis is a band that I definitely like never will turn off when they're on the radio. They haven't really done a lot to set themselves apart in my eyes yet. So a band to watch, sure, but a band to go out of your way for, maybe in a couple years. And then, I did not expect this one. Machine Girl has put out a new track. It's called Psychic Attack. If you have never listened to Machine Girl before, let me warn you first before you go check this out, because I am going to recommend you go check this out, because this is some of the best noise rock that you could really ever put to your ears. But this is difficult to listen to at times. This is probably one of the more digestible tracks that he's put out. But still, by and large, Machine Girl is just difficult stuff to listen to. If you are big into black metal, if you are big into like Converge and the very dissonant stuff that they do, and bands like that, Botch, early Mastodon, that kind of stuff, then you will probably dig this, because it is on that level of abrasive. It's not metal. It is not really even punk rock. Like the ethos there definitely is, but the actual sounds do not emulate from the punk rock arena. This is noise. It kind of dips its toes a little bit into the metal stuff, especially vocally. Like, there are definitely some vocals on here that would not be foreign on a metal record. but by and large, it is not metal really at all. But it is very abrasive, very noisy rock, and freaking, like, there's no way to talk about production is fine, but like, how can you really talk about production on something like this except for the very brief elements where you get something that resembles a traditional song, and the vocal production standard, like there's nothing bad about that. So yeah, recommend Machine Girl, go check it out. Just be ready to kind of get a little bit of a headache if you're not in the mood to hear noise. And then we got something a little bit interesting. The next two tracks that we're talking about are out of the regular wheelhouse for the channel as well, though we're dipping more and more into the hip-hop stuff, I think. Not that Die Antwoord is hip-hop, but Die Antwoord is the next track. They're rap. I don't even know really what you can call them. They're like EDM rap, I guess. This is not a traditional song for them at all, because at least the bit that I've listened to, I've listened to quite a bit of them. It's a freestyle. I've never heard Ninja legitimately freestyle, and this appears to be that. It's the OK USA freestyle is what it's called. And the production for this, the reason I wanted to put this in the new music section this week is the production for this is much more in line of what you would expect from the more traditional Die Antwoord sound. Stuff that you get off of the Zeph. What is the name? The Zeph. I can't think of the record names right now. But you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, the first couple of records, first 2-3 records, this is kind of more in line with that. And they're just basically calling out everybody on the upcoming US tour. It's pretty cool. Again, never seen Ninja freestyle before, so interesting to see a little bit of a different take on an art form that I'm moderately versed in, and absolutely worth a watch. Go check it out. Link in the description. And like I said, the next track, the final track for the new music subsection, is Ghostface Killah featuring Method Man. The new song is called Pair of Hammers, comes from new record called Set the Tone, which is apparently out now, and it has been a long time since I've legitimately listened to like Ghostface solo. Listened to Wu-Tang fairly often, especially at work, but like Ghostface solo stuff has never really been hard on my radar before. My brother turned me onto him when I was a little kid, and they've kind of been ancillary for a while, but when this came up, I was like, yeah, sure, I really like Method Man, and Ghostface has always been like one of the leaders of the Wu in my eyes, so it's really cool to see solo stuff. And then put this song on and was kind of like, I should listen to more Ghostface Killah. This is damn good. I don't know who did the production on it, probably Ghostface or also potentially RZA, but either way, like, just from the production to the flow to Method Man's guest spot even feels supernatural. It doesn't feel like he got shoehorned in. It doesn't feel like they're trying to do a Wu record between them either. It just feels like Ghostface and Meth just kind of doing their thing together, and totally awesome. There is a reason why these guys are at the top of the pack whenever anybody puts together any sort of best in hip hop kind of list, is because even that vocabulary thing that we talked about last week, like the vocabulary that they use is incredibly high also. So why would you not go check this out? Go check out the new Ghostface and Method Man track. The Pair of Hammers is the name of the song. Dubby break. So, tours and festivals we've got up next. Nothing crazy going on here. We do have one European tour to talk about, and that is Decapitation featuring Shadow of Intent. It's a European tour, starts January 23rd in Nuremberg, Germany, runs through February 23rd in Tilburg, Netherlands. Specifics, you can find a link down below. Tickets are on sale. If you are a European viewer, then by all means, buy as many tickets as you can, because this is definitely a tour that deserves to sell out, because Shadow of Intent is fantastic and Cannibal Corpse is an institution. So there you go. That's really all we got for tours and festivals though. So let's move right along and get to the really big piece for this week in the regular ass news section. And that has to do with Limp Bizkit. So Limp Bizkit is suing Universal Media Group. This is the label that they spent most of their career. I don't believe they are currently on UMG, but actually I'm pretty sure they are doing their own thing without a label currently. Don't quote me on that because I could be wrong. But either way, for the time that they were on Universal, at the very least, they went through a couple of different situations with Universal where they had their own imprints. They've had two of them that I know of, and it very well could be more, but I'm aware of at least two. The first one was Flip Records. The second one was, in the notes, give me a second, Flawless. The second one was Flawless Records. And so on those imprints under Universal Media Group, Universal still fronted the bill, still paid up front for them to make their records, and then had to recoup the cost that they fronted them before they could write checks for the residuals that Limp Bizkit is owed for the sales beyond the recoup cost. So in the record business, especially back when Limp Bizkit signed their deal with UMG, the way it works, and this is, I mean, you've heard TLC go into this if you've been paying attention to the music industry for some time. The way that an artist can go broke, which is what happened to TLC, is you sign a record deal. That record deal is for $1 million, just pulling a number out of the air. So that $1 million, that's your upfront. That's what they give you before you do anything. They say, we like the way you write music, we like the way you perform, or whatever it is that got you the deal. So we're going to front you $1 million. And that $1 million has to pay for all of the production on your records. I mean, different contracts are different from record to record, sure, but either way, they front you the money, and then they pay for that also pays for the distribution of the record. And once all of that is paid for, the record label has to recoup that money before you start getting residuals. So you can determine how that money is spent, but you technically owe that money back until you get residuals. And I know there's a lot more to it than this, but this is just kind of the super stupid simple breakdown of it. So once the record label has recouped their cost, then you start getting residuals on your music. And the way that Limp Bizkit is filing this suit, it sounds like at the very least UMG, and very likely the other big labels in the industry, are doing some shady business. The specifics of this lawsuit, though, lay out something a little bit more direct. Not necessarily that UMG, even though some news outlets are reporting that it's an umbrella lawsuit, and it's really not as much. It is a little bit, but not as much as they're leading you to believe. Really what they're doing is they're suing because UMG is separating their fees. They have one set of fees under the Flip label imprint, and they have one set of fees under Fearless. But really, it was, as far as I can tell, it was just the one contract for the band overall. So once the band hit a certain level, they were supposed to start bringing in residuals. And here we are, it's like 35 years later from the first record they put out, and they're still not getting residuals from the first record that they put out, which arguably is their best record, but that's a whole different argument. That's a whole different conversation. So Fred Durst got new representation. I don't know if it's for the whole band or just for him specifically, but the lawsuit names the whole band as complainants. So very possibly for the whole band. They got new representation. New representation went, you guys are owed a lot of money. The actual sum of money that they are suing for is something to the tune of $20 million. Now that sounds like a big number to people without money, like myself. I could definitely never work again if I had $20 million. But the actual amount of money that they estimate they are owed before they get the discovery from court is something closer, if not more than $200 million is what they assume is more appropriate of it. So this could go that high, but the minimum they're asking for is 20. And that's just to get the lawsuit off the ground. That is bonkers. And on top of it, it also implies anyone else who signed under either Flip or Flawless Records, because those are imprints of UMG, anyone else who was working through those record labels, those imprints with UMG, is also determined to get some sort of payout, not defined by what Limp Bizkit is suing them for initially. So this could be gigantic and literally change the entire music industry. Like, this is insane that it's gone on for this long. And honestly, it's probably gone on even longer, much more further back than just the 35 years that it's taken for Limp Bizkit to catch it, because this is standard practice for record labels. It has been. That's why they got away with it with Limp Bizkit for so long, is because nobody thought to question it, because it's just the way the industry works. So some artists who don't have the same amount of overhead, who the label didn't necessarily put up the same amount of front money for, they have got residuals. Other artists who were smart enough to do everything themselves and not require that upfront money, and then also own the rights to the masters of their music, those people are getting residuals. But those are the exceptions, not the rule. By and large, this is the way that the industry has been run for a very, very long time. So theoretically, and the implications are even more broad, because it could be any record label that is doing this, and exactly the details of it are just going to bore you. This is a generally nerdy channel, not exactly a specifically nerdy channel, so we're not getting into that kind of specifics. But some of the stuff that they allege in this lawsuit, if any other record label are also doing these things, like, that's grounds for a lawsuit for almost any other band or artist or what have you to do this same lawsuit against their record label. That's huge, gigantic even. So we will be keeping tabs on this and seeing where this goes. But right now, it's really just a bottle full of potential and not a lot of follow through, because it just happened like yesterday, I believe, is when it was made public. So yeah, that's huge. Let's move on. From there, we are going into also for the Limp Bizkit thing, sorry. There are two links down in the description. One is to the Blabbermouth article that I originally got this from. They go into some specifics there, and then also a YouTube video from Rockfeed, and he goes into some other specifics, so you can kind of piece together a little bit for yourself between those two sources. So next up, we have Converge on the regular ass news section. So Converge is a band maybe not a lot of people know about, but they are, I name dropped them just a moment ago when we were talking about new music. They're metal, what would you call them? I don't even know what their subgenre is. They're Converge. that's if you know them, you know them. If you don't, you should. And it's very difficult music to listen to. Let's just preface it with that. But they make a living for themselves, no problem. Jacob Bannon, the lead vocalist, is also a graphic designer. He does a lot of album artwork for other bands, and he makes a living doing that and other design things that he does. So they have a little chunk of change, and they're trying to give back to the community. And this is also kind of huge, because what they have done, they just released a live record. This is not the first live record they've ever released, but this is the first live record that they have released where the proceeds are going directly to Hurricane Helene victims. Very probable, though this has not been made public yet, and it's because we're still waiting on Milton, I believe, to make landfall. But very probably they will open up the funds to Hurricane Milton victims as well. So there's nothing really new on this record. It is a live performance from Orlando, Florida, I believe last year, though I could be mistaken. It could be much more recent than that. It's not in the notes because it's fairly irrelevant. It's up live on their bandcamp right now. If you buy this record, that money goes to Hurricane Helene victims, and you get an amazing live record. So like, why would you not do this? It's incredible to me that we live in a country where it took over a week for the president to acknowledge and potentially go down and say, we see you, we understand, you need help, help is on the way. Like, that's not getting in the way of the emergency responders. That's letting people know that they're not being forgotten. But whatever, that's a whole different political argument that we're probably never going to have on the channel. Maybe in the future, but either way, the president, it took him that long, but this happened as soon as physically possible. Once this happened, they put things in the only way, because it's been live for almost a week at this point, so it was just a few days after Helene hit landfall. So like, this is an immediate response from the music community. The music community is doing this, not just the music, the extreme music community is doing this, and that is amazing. So yes, absolutely, link down in the description to the Bandcamp. Please go purchase this record, do what you can to help. That is what we got for regular ass news, which leaves our suggestion for music this week. And if you think I'm suggesting anything other than this new Converge live album, you are sorely mistaken. Go purchase the $10 live album from Converge so that they can send that money to people who need it, who have been affected by the hurricanes. Specifically, they do say that it is going to Hurricane Helene victims, though once Milton has made landfall and has wreaked the havoc that we are expecting it to wreak, then very likely, this is just me speculating, but very likely they will open that up to Milton victims as well. So this is, you're getting fantastic music and also contributing to an amazing cause. That is your musical suggestion for the week. Go buy it. Go buy it twice. Give one to a friend. 20 bucks is really not that much for a record, especially a full-length live record. Absolutely worth that $20 for 2 copies even. So that's your suggestion. Let's move on. That brings us to the end of the video, nerds. Thank you very much for joining me for the news. Once again, there is a full and probably much more up-to-date and recent episode of the news, the full-length version, if you will, called The Week in Nerddom over on the main channel, linked down in the description, and probably link popping up somewhere around my face right about now. So click on that, go check that out as well, or if you prefer your news in more truncated pieces, then by all means just stick around here and go check out some of the other stuff we offer on this channel. Thank you very much for joining me. We will see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember, nerds, that if it is generally nerdy, it's probably here.